So here, out of disappointment, out of sorrow, God would raise up a New Testament movement that would go to the ends of the earth to proclaim the gospel to every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. Revelation 14, looking there at verse 6. And I saw another angel fly in the middle of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach to them that dwell on the earth. To what? Every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. So out of the disappointment of 1844, just like God raised up a movement after Christ's death, he would raise up an end-time people. Seventh-day Adventists today are proclaiming the gospel, 23 million strong, in over 214 countries in the world. God says you must prophesy again. One of the great joys I have had is to travel the world to around 100 countries. And I have stood at the graves of many Adventist pioneers who pioneered this work. I remember being in Hong Kong, and they said to me, "What do you want to see? We'll take you any place you want to go for a tourist." I said, "I want you to find me the grave of Abraham LaRue." Abraham LaRue was a layperson, wrote to the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists years and years ago. We had no believers in China at the time. Very few Christians, almost no Christians in China. Abraham LaRue became an Adventist as the result of a literature evangelist giving him literature in a book. He was a farmer up in Northern California. And he was moved when he read that book. Ultimately became a Seventh-day Adventist. He said, "I can't keep this to myself." He said, "I have to tell the world. I have to tell the world." So he writes to the General Conference. He's in his 60s at this time, and he said to them, "I want to go to China." They write back two things. Number one, "You're too old." Number two, "We don't have any money." There's nothing new under the sun. We have any money. But they said, "I'll tell you what. If you can get your boat passage and go out to one of the islands in the Pacific, you can do some literature evangelist work there, as long as you stay in the Pacific." He pays his passage, gets on a steamer, goes out to Hawaii, begins selling books, literature. And he thinks, wait a minute, across the Pacific, there's Hong Kong. I won't be disobeying if I go there. So he goes to Hong Kong. No Christians. Finds a clerk of court who can translate Steps to Christ into Chinese. The guy does it. He begins witnessing to British sailors who come to Hong Kong on the British boats. Some of those sailors accept Christ, accept the Adventist message, go back to Liverpool, England, and start our work there. He continues to witness, travels all over, sharing his faith. And today, as the result of that ministry, it took him 5 years before he had his first converts. As a result of that ministry, today we have 350 to 400,000, almost 400,000 believers in China. You know, one of my dear friends is Pastor Robert Wong. I saw him recently. Little man about this tall, throws his arms around me, "Pastor, so good to see you." Spent 15 years in prison for his faith. He was 28 years old. He left a youth meeting one day, arrested by the communist government, thrown into prison. He was in a prison that was 4 by 8, 4 feet wide, 8 feet long, with 3 other prisoners, just crammed there, just crammed. And as he sat there, they all had their heads shaved bald. And they said to him, "If they don't shave your head bald, you may not have to stay here very long." First day goes by, they don't shave his head. Second day, third day, fourth day. 3 months go by. It's Christmas Day, and he's called now by the authorities. And his friends say, "They're going to let you go. It's Christmas Day." He goes in, there's a barber's chair, and they shave his head. And he remembers it's Christmas Day, and with tears coming down his face, he looks at his hair on the floor, and he says, "Jesus, I don't have anything to give you today. It's Christmas Day, but I want to give you the gift of my hair. He spends 15 years, 3 of those in solitary confinement in a hole deep. Through a providence of God, his mother sent him a little Bible. And the way he got that Bible was just amazing. He remembered the hymn number, "Give Me the Bible." And he was allowed to write 30 Chinese characters to his mother every month. Once a month, he could write 30 Chinese characters. And one of those characters, he said, "Mama, just remember," I think it was 117 or something, whatever it was in the Chinese hymnal. And she, because he had heard in the prison yard a prisoner call out, because every prisoner, had a number, and somebody called out, "Prisoner 117, get over here." And he remembered, that's in the Chinese hymnal, "Give me the Bible," see. And so he wrote to his mother, just remember 117. She said, "He's asking for a Bible." They could get soap about this long, and a bar of soap, because they didn't have soap, and they'd cut it. And she hollowed out the bar of soap and put a little Bible in. And she said, "Yes, I remembered 117. He found the Bible, and he said to me, 'Mark, that's what nourished me all through that solitary confinement.' He said, 'The Word of God just nourished me.'" When I travel, I want to hear the stories of those pioneers. I remember in Africa, I was at Salusi College, and they said, "Where do you want to go?" I said, "I want to go to the cemetery, but I want to be alone." And I went to the cemetery and sat there, looked at the grave of Pastor Anderson, who had given his life there. Wife dies, children die. And I thought to myself, these early Adventists who went through this disappointment, and of course LaRue and Anderson were years later than that, but still in that vein, they believed Christ was coming. It made a difference in their lives. It drove them to their knees, and it drove them to a time of Bible study. It drove them to a time of prayer. It drove them to a time of deeper spirituality. And if God is calling the church to anything today, he's calling us to recapture that spirit of the pioneers. You see, the work of God is not going to be finished simply by some light fare. It's not going to be finished by people who love video games and love the internet and can't concentrate on the Word of God, and their minds are so saturated with this world that they have forgotten eternity. The culture around us at times shapes us. The culture around us at times squeezes us into its mold. But God is calling for a people who are absolutely, totally committed to Him. A people who will draw nearer to God each moment. And that's what the song is all about, Nearer, Still Nearer. It's a song that talks about faith and courage in our relationship with God. I don't know where you are in your spiritual walk tonight, but God is calling each one of us to something deeper. He's not calling us to wade in kiddies' wading pools up to our ankles and pick up pennies. He's calling us to go deep. He's calling us to rediscover the pearl of great price, to have a fresh and new and vibrant spiritual experience. He's calling us back to a deeper prayer life, a richer Bible study life, and a passionate commitment to witness.